Mentoring is probably the most natural thing that happens at a university. I didn't have to invent this. It was invented over years and years and with lots of faculty and students. It's the thing faculty like to do, is to pass on what they know and to get others engaged.
I think mentoring is a little more personal. It's kind of a one-on-one where they are working together with you to kind of get the same result, whereas teaching, they're just giving their knowledge to you.
Both of you are learners. The person being mentored, the person supposedly doing the mentoring, are both learners. They're both active. They're both problem solvers.
We are both exploring the process at the same time, and we are both trying to find out what is the best way to develop and to reach the goal that we want to reach.
One thing that has bothered me a little bit about my undergraduate education is I think it's built a lot towards motivating by fear of the exam.
I'm aware of no other university in the nation that invests the kind of dollars BYU has invested in creating opportunities and environments for students to have such an experience.
I think classroom experiences are very, very structured, and I think a disservice of a classroom experience is that you can enter, see a syllabus, and think that that is how it is and how it will be, and that life fits those steps, and that answers come halfway through and at the end, in your final and your midterm.
In terms of mentoring, what I've been able to do is be hands-on with them all the time while they're working on the project.
I think the other thing that's great about mentoring for me has been the fact that it's all been hands-on and it's been real projects where we've had a client and there's been a purpose, and so in that sense it gives the students an excitement.
Well, when I first arrived at BYU, I was kind of lost. I was like all new faculty members, and I started out with a very small laboratory. But I wanted to have the same experience here that I had had at Harvard in mentoring really bright undergraduate students.
Dr. Simmons has been working with an enzyme called COX-2, which is involved in inflammation and pain.
We didn't call it COX-2. We called it mitogen-inducible prostaglandin GH synthase, which never caught on.
No professor in the biochemistry or chemistry department has more undergraduates working for him, as far as I know. He has, right now, I believe 5 undergraduates working for him. And that's just because he wants to give as many people the opportunity to have hands-on experience and to learn what really happens in a biochemistry laboratory.
First of all, I got to see what it's like to be in a lab. And second of all, through interacting with him and seeing the experiences that he has in his professional field, I've gained really a lot of perspective on what I'll be facing and what kind of career opportunities there really are out there for me in my field. And that's what made me decide that I want to keep on with what I'm doing.
I think you influence the student in a lot of different ways through the mentoring process, and you're more limited in the classroom.
We'd talk about techniques that they do in research, and I could never really picture it until I'd done it in the lab. And it's really a completely different thing doing it in the lab as opposed to talking about it in a class.
Somewhere along the line, I found out my students were smarter than I was.
Obviously, I'm not an expert on everything, and there are things that my students know better than I do. And when we work in those kind of environments, then there's that play.
There's a great deal of trust. It's not like, okay, if you do a bad job, I'm going to give you a C. If you do a bad job, our project is going to be set back a week.
I know how exciting it is to do research in an author like Emily Dickinson, who has such beautiful language, and actually spend time on it. And that means the students not only would learn the skill of lexicography, which is a linguistics skill that's marketable, but they would also be reading Emily Dickinson's poems and processing it and trying to figure out what she means.
Professor Hallen has been working on a dictionary for all of the words in Emily Dickinson's poems for about 8 years now. She started in 1992.
It's going to be a very useful translating tool for You know, anybody who wants to understand Emily Dickinson's poems better and wants to see them in their own language.
Two people are smarter than one, always. And so when you have two heads thinking and working on interesting questions and doing research, you can share ideas and come up with a result that's much more than any one person can do.
We learn from each other. I mean, I mostly learn from her right now, but it's still really, it's neat because we really interact and it's a group effort.
They're teaching me things that I wouldn't know by myself, and I'm teaching them things because of my experience that they don't know about, and we put that together and we can get a lot of work done, and also we can publish together.
I get to use all the things I've learned, you know, about linguistics and literature and bring both of them together, so that was a dream come true.
I, as the mentor of these students, I also become the student, and they become my mentors. And so it's this interactive process. It's this exchange. It's this reciprocity. And for me, that makes for powerful learning for all of us.
We do involve the undergraduate student a lot more here. We're still very interested in the graduate student, but often we're interested in them not only to mentor them, but to have them help us mentor in this environment.
I was in a lab for about a year before I went into Dr. Burton's lab, and they had graduate students there you could ask, but there wasn't like a specific graduate student assigned to you.
The way he works it is he lets the graduate students directly interact with the undergraduates and kind of help them form a hypothesis and help them form a project of their own.
The structure is a lot nicer. It's nice to know that there's one person I can go to specifically for a specific question, and that's helped me with my project. You know, it just gives you a lot more direction.
Candace's project, she does almost all of it by herself. She takes care of all the things. She just comes and asks questions and gets how, you know, figures out how to do it, and then she goes and actually does it.
So there's this kind of environment where we're circling around information and going back and forth one with another in trying to learn. I think that helps me to learn, it helps the graduate students to learn, and it helps the undergraduate students to learn. And it creates a very friendly, I think, and interactive environment.
A week and a half ago, Brandon and I ran into this problem. We've been working with this essay for about 4 months, and we're still having problems with it, so we're both getting really frustrated. And I went to him with a problem, and he wasn't quite sure of the answer, and so he went to Dr. Burton with the problem. And Dr. Burton fiddled around with it for a while, and Brandon and I fiddled around with it for a while, and we eventually figured it out, and it was just really kind of cool because, like, we got all the interaction. We asked everybody else in the lab, you know, and they helped us with the problem, and nobody knew the answer before we started. And by the end of it, we'd figured out what was wrong, or what wasn't wrong, actually, in this case.
I can probe their understanding, cause them to think, and they in turn can come back with answers. Now, a lot of times they come back with questions, and those cause me to think and pause and consider what it is we're doing. So it's this two or the three-way communication that I think is not only beneficial to teaching, but it moves the research forward, which in turn bring the teaching forward as well.
The only detriment over the entire mentoring process is that it takes time. It does take time out of your schedule, and you have to go to meetings and you have to interact with the students. But overall, that time is paid back because of the benefit that the good students can return and the good things that they can do for you.
I look upon them as colleagues. Brandon as an example, or Jake, or other students in the lab. If I have a problem that I'm struggling with and I want to get other input, they're the first people that I'll go to. And the reason for that is they're closest to the problems that we work with.
You make friendships here that last a long time.
I spend more time with my student assistants than I do with my faculty colleagues.
And in this case, I've been working with Dr. Jackson for over 2 years.
And it's not that I don't like my faculty colleagues, it's just that I work in an office where my students are located, and we're able to work together, and I like them all.
You get to know the professor as a person, and that's been really interesting, because Dr. Jackson's really down to earth. He's got a sense of humor, but he really works hard, and he's very dedicated to the church and to the mission of BYU.
I know their wives, I know their husbands, I've gotten to know their
babies over the years, and so it's been a really happy working relationship for me as well as hopefully also for them.
Students here at BYU gain a lot and even want those kind of relationships because the professors are interesting people and people that they can learn something from on a personal level.
Before I came here to BYU, I used to work for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. There I designed radar systems for spacecraft. It was a fairly high management role, and I had a lot of fun doing a lot of rather interesting things in the space program. But the problem there was what we worked on was really just hardware without a lot of involvement with other people. And I wanted to do something more for people. I always had a dream of teaching and working with students. And I left JPL to come here to BYU when that opportunity came available. I actually took a salary cut to come here because I wanted to work with students. And here I feel like my job is to build students, not just to build hardware, to do research problems.
It's a very unique relationship that I don't think people really understand unless they've been in it, in the sense that a teacher is someone you see in the classroom, and that's about it. If you have a question, you go to their office, you go bang on their door, you can go beg for grades or whatever happens with teachers. But with my advisor, I see him at least once a week for probably an hour to 2 hours of time every week, just he and I, just sitting together, working out problems, talking about the things that we work on together. And so that has been a very unique relationship where it becomes more of a friendship or more of a co-worker type level than a professor and a student.
Anytime that I have a question, he's generally available there in his office and he's willing to answer any questions that I have.
Well, I really love Peter and Ivan. They're great students. I've been working with them for quite a number of years. Ivan started working for me as an undergraduate student. He and I began working on a problem where we were calibrating a radar system that's flying in space. I'm kind of bad even in my classes. Sometimes I like to tell jokes in my classes. My favorite kind of humor is puns. And of course everybody knows what 2/3 of a pun is, and that's just PU.
He is way over the bad joke limit.
They sometimes wonder though why I reward them with punishment.
I have to say I'm proud of myself because I started in class the bad joke versus good joke tally. With this advisor relationship in class, he likes to pick on me. He loves to make fun of me. But in return, I can make fun of him, which is really, you don't dare make fun of your advisor in class. But I can crack jokes back at him because we have this good relationship.
I don't know. To me, mentoring is really what life is all about in some sense. I wouldn't be here if I couldn't mentor students. If I could just do my research, I'd be perfectly happy to sit at my computer, go to a few scientific meetings, and I'd be happy. That'd be great for my academic career and for what I like to do for research. But you know what's rewarding? What really matters are people. In the long run, all my research is not a hill of beans because when we all go to the celestial kingdom, we're going to find out how little we know about life and what's going on. But the students, the people I've worked with over the years, I hope I've built them and made them into better people that will last a lifetime.
The university has a few very obvious purposes and goals. They have to do with the development and education of students. And at this university, you're aware that development extends beyond the academic interests to character, spirituality, a number of things like that. We have role models carefully hired and chosen here, the faculty. And these are people good in their disciplines, people of spiritual strength and understanding. If we can't bring them together in several environments, classroom and otherwise, to change people's lives, and we've not done what we're supposed to do at a university.
I think that having had this kind of experience is going to help me as much as an internship or it's a starting level job.
So I'd say one thing hopefully people get out of it is a vision that they can make a contribution.
It's a real hands-on kind of learning, and to be able to work with someone who's had years of experience doing research and can help students along the way, I think it's just an incredible experience.
But you learn about a scholar, disciple, and you kind of learn from his example.
I hope that this becomes the hallmark of a BYU education.